Hello, welcome to a Jack and Jack show. As you can tell, Joe Sansom under the weather this week. We wish him well. Jack Stroudley filling in as usual. How are you, Jack?
Very well, very well. Very glad to be here. Obviously, all the very best to Joe. Hopefully, he's fit and firing soon, and hopefully he'll be back next week. But in the meantime, I'm here to fill the void in and hopefully keep the wheels turning, keep the show on the road.
The Jack and Joe show or Jack and Joe show HQ. Wheels keep on turning week by week. Jack, it's a weird time to support Fulham at the moment because we've had our best season in the context of a Premier League season with a championship winning season. We've had our best season in years, and yet the mood is as low as it's been in many a time. It's very strange, and I don't really know what to make of it.
Yeah, it is a very weird time. I think there's a real divide in terms of fan opinion on what the current situation is, of how the context of how bad the situation currently is. And I mean, I've got an article going out on Fulhamish at some point this week, and my opinion on the matter, I'm sure we're going to get into West Ham, is that it isn't as bad as some people are making it out to be. And like I said, we'll get into West Ham, and my thoughts on the performance were it was pretty poor. But I'm seeing people online, said I even saw someone say we could still get relegated. That's not going to happen. We're on 39 points, and I think a little bit of context is needed. We do have a relatively thin squad. We were always going to tire out at some point, relying on the same kind of names every week. Obviously, you add on the fact we haven't got Mitrovic anymore, or at least until Southampton away at the moment. If you look at how many. I was looking at expected goals and whatnot. We've scored more than we should have, and we've conceded less than we should have. So those numbers were always going to catch us up at one point. And it's been a fantastic season, and you've got to kind of pinch yourself. We're where we are on the table is absolutely fantastic, and this part of a season is concerning, obviously. But every team, unless you are one of the top teams, every team goes through it at some point. And I'm just very glad, and I said this to a couple of people. I'm very glad that we're going through this when we're already fine. If we were sitting on, I don't know, maybe 35, 36 points, and we were going through this and we didn't have Mitrovic, then yeah, there would be some room where you could be concerned. But I think the total number of points we have, I think we're going to be fine. And we've got a manager in Marco Silva at the helm who, seems to be building a project. And I think the most important thing is we need to keep it going. Tie him up to a new deal. Try and convince Paulinho to stay. Still, Manor Solomon. Give Luke Harris some minutes, and get ready for the summer, which could be quite an exciting one.
Yeah, I think you've summed it up beautifully. Actually, I would describe it as unnecessary negative noise on the pitch, and 4 losses in a row in a league campaign is concerning for any club. However, coming off the back of over half a season where we've been incredibly successful against all the odds, it's a balancing scale. You're balancing it out. Ultimately it's okay to have these periods. Ultimately, someone said to me on the quick take that the performances haven't been very good for about 10 games, and that is true. However, these are things that just aren't worrying me as much as the other person. Like, everyone's entitled to their opinion and everything, and I understand the concern from the fan base about performances, but ultimately, it bodes back to this question: what do fans really want? What do fans really want long term, especially a club of our stature, where we just want to be a sustainable Premier League club? And in the first season, when you've had such a good season and suddenly it's just starting to fade away a bit, I don't understand why everyone's just not like, that's fine. But then again, it's difficult. A lot of people have a lot of different opinions and whatever. Let's quickly look back on West Ham. I've had my take on it. I want to hear yours.
West Ham, yeah. I mean, for everything I've just said about, I'm not stressed about the current performances of this and the other. Let's not beat around the bush. West Ham wasn't good enough. We were really poor. We were very devoid of ideas. The goal is a very unlucky one, in fairness to Harrison Reed. But it's one that happens in football when you could make the argument, Bernd Leno made some pretty important saves and West Ham were unlucky not to score again. So, it balances itself out. There's the talk about the Kufau potential handball. I believe the new ruling is because Tim Ream cleared it, it is technically classified as a new phase of play. So you're not going to get that given, unfortunately. But in terms of Fulham's performance, going forward, we just looked devoid of any kind of creativity whatsoever. We were just putting balls into the box for the sake of it, not really having much of a threat. Pereira came closest and was pretty unlucky. And he rounded the keeper, and then Fabianski got a palm to it to kind of parry it away. But look, it's a really, really tough day at the office. But it is the kind of game that you do go through in a season. That doesn't make it not frustrating, though.
Yeah, it reminds me of games we even saw last season where we didn't necessarily need to get the points because we were already up or looking like they're up, and we were playing against teams who needed points, the likes of Derby and Nottingham Forest, or even Coventry, like those sort of defeats, or Huddersfield, those sort of defeats that sort of make me go, yeah, the performance was concerning, but it's not the end of the world. And I always take these like negatives in performances as positives, because if you think about it and you look at this team right now without Mitrovic, and you're seeing the lack of creativity that's being deployed in this team. On one hand, you can look at it and go, we're rubbish without Mitrovic. We don't have a plan B. I'm really concerned, blah, blah, blah. You could also look at it as, well, this is great because it's now identified that we do not have a plan B. Therefore, let's come up with a solution over the summer. And that will be exactly what Marco Silva and the recruitment team are thinking of right now. Mitrovic, I would assume, would be our number one striker for next season. That's fine. And then it's all about coming up with a plan B that's a little bit more proactive, a little bit more exciting, and doesn't have the fans thinking, well, if we don't have Mitrovic on the pitch or Paulinho or whoever, we're screwed. So there are positives to take. There's a long way to go until next August. And there's going to be a lot of activity in, out, shake it all about. It's going to be great. So that I can't sit here and start slating the players and the club after such a remarkable season where, like I said, we were, we were second or third favourites to get relegated when the odds came out back in July and August. And we're sitting here basically 1 point off guaranteed safety or whatever. We've said it enough. A couple of things have happened yesterday. Let's start with the trip to the USA. Fulham have been included in a trip pre-season tour of the USA. We're going to be playing Chelsea, Brentford and Aston Villa alongside other teams in Newcastle and Brighton, I think, are the ones who are going.
Yep, that's right.
I mean, this is bizarre, but also like, would the fans have wanted a nice European pre-season trip? I'm sure. However, financially for the club, I think this could be quite nice in terms of the exposure it gets abroad across the pond as well. And I'm rather looking forward to whether we're going to be there or not. It's probably not going to be likely given how expensive it all is. And but it will be quite nice to have that sort of exposure in the summer. And be, I don't necessarily love playing Premier League teams in pre-season or the teams you're going to be facing in the domestic calendar in pre-season. But then again, who cares? It's just pre-season.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head with most things there. I did actually have a look at how much it would cost. I went to Portugal last year, so I was thinking, I'd quite like to do another pre-season tour. I think the cheapest flight for a game was actually the Fulham Chelsea one, which I think that was the one that's in Washington.
Right.
I'm not 100% sure. And I think it was just under £600 for a flight or return flights. And it's just like, by the time you get a hotel and you're looking at four figures for one pre-season friendly. And I cannot begin to justify that, to be perfectly honest with you. And obviously from a fan side of things, that is annoying, but from a commercial side of things, it does make sense. We know that, there is a decent fan base of Fulham fans in America. Obviously, you've got Tim Ream and Anthony Robinson, and there's been players in the past like Dempsey and McBride. So that there is the Fulham and America link, so it does make sense. And obviously, we've got an owner who owns an American football team. So I think from a commercial side of things, it completely makes sense. I would assume that those games will probably be televised as well. You'd imagine they'll probably be televised, so you'll get additional money for that, whether it's in the UK, whether it's on Fox Soccer or something like that. I don't.
Yeah, BN or something like that.
Either way, it will be televised. So you'll get additional money from that, and I think it's exciting. I think it's exciting, and you're playing 3 Premier League opponents, 3 good Premier League opponents as well, in Brentford and Aston Villa, and then also you've got the side in the bottom half of the table, Chelsea as well, which could be an interesting
Lowly
game.
Chelsea.
but no, look, I think it's an exciting prospect, and who knows, for fans who potentially want to do a European one, that there still might be a game. You never know. I mean, because we're going out at the end of July, I think it is, towards the end of July.
Yeah, and then usually we'd have a home tie.
Home game
Cottage.
is like the week before
the season. Yeah.
So the Portugal trip was mid July. So I don't know. Maybe it's wishful thinking on my part, but there might still be something. But either way, I think it's a smart move by the club, and I think it's a move that makes sense, and it can excite the fans who live in America, who can actually go to Fulham games now, which is an exciting prospect for them.
It's also a bit of a privilege to be invited. It's an all Premier League affair, and we are recognised as a Premier League outfit. Unless it goes horrendously wrong and we lose every game, we somehow go down on 39. We're going to be Premier League next season.
The report from David Ornstein was it was going to be Leeds United.
Leeds, yeah.
But I assume after Roy Hodgson turned up and
put 5,
absolutely dunked on him at Ellen Road, I think they the organisers backtrack a little bit and realise Leeds might not be a Premier League side, Fulham will be, and like I said, it's quite a flattering offer.
I'm very excited for those American Fulham fans. A lot of them are on the Telegram, which, of course, if you haven't joined, you can do using the link in the description. A lot of those fans could possibly make the trip. I know America's a big country; it's in 3 different stadiums, but you could still make it to at least one of them. Perhaps that would be exciting. And yeah, it's just nice. It's nice that we have been invited into this sort of, would you say, elite tournament, pre-season tournament? Yeah, I mean, like I said, every summer you get like an Arsenal playing a Chelsea, and I find that's quite boring. Or Man United, I think Man United played Liverpool last pre-season. I find that quite dull, quite boring. But then again, it's exposure for those fans who don't get to experience those sort of games, where obviously because they don't live in England. So for them, I can completely understand it, and for us, it's more of a, we'll take an interest in it, but it's not going to be absolutely, pyro and everything, Stone Island
glued to the screen.
Exactly.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think the most important thing is it's exciting for those fans who have maybe they've seen Brian McBride played for Fulham and they took an interest in Fulham then, and they've kind of grown into be a fan, but they've never had the opportunity to go and see him play, and you've now given them 3 opportunities to go and watch. I'm not saying they're going to go to all 3, but you've got an opportunity there. Say you're from, I don't know, Orlando or in the Florida area. There's a game in Florida. There's a game in, I think it's Philadelphia, and I think there's a game in Washington as well.
It's Maryland, I think. Well, I don't.
That's the one. That's the one that's outside. Either way, it's in 3 states.
It's in the US.
It's in the US. So it's an exciting prospect, and who knows, there might be some games a little bit closer to home that fans could get excited about.
Yeah, and of course, we've got American owners. It's the first time, I think, since the American ownership took over, the Khans took over, that we've actually had a tour out in America. It does make sense. They've had the Jaguars over in London. It's about time we went to the USA. Right. Season tickets.
Here we go.
The big old bombshell. What I will quickly say is I'm a season ticket holder in H4. I'm an adult, $6.50 it's going to cost me next season. Divide that by 19, makes £34 per game. That is fine. £34 for a Premier League game. You get the adult tickets for £30 and you go, that's the cap, and then add an extra £4 on for the home game. Like, it's okay. It's not eye-watering. And these 3,000, 2,000, 1,000 season ticket. Okay, actually the 1,000 ones in like the corner flag in the Riverside. That's poor, I think. However, the 3,000 ones, they're not for your everyday fan.
No.
They're for the people who can afford it.
Yeah. The people who
Yeah.
are going to be affected by the £3,000 prices can afford to be affected by the £3,000 prices. Doesn't make it fine. I'm the same as Jack. I'm in H5. My season ticket's now gone up to 650, which is fine. 35 quid is fine. I think the biggest shock has been how drastic the rise from what paid last season this season to next season. I think
did you pay 550 this season?
I paid 500 for some reason, but even
500.
500. I'm same again, adult in the 5. So mine's gone up by 150 quid, which again is fine. But the issue is because of my situation, I'm a student. I'm not entirely sure if I'm actually going to be able to afford it.
Right.
Which is quite frustrating. It means I might. So I've been going to Fulham now since I was 10, and the fact that I might get priced out is obviously very, very frustrating. I'm going to try and speak to the club because there's, cheaper alternatives in H2 and H7, and also potentially the Putney end. So I am
installment plans you can pay in as well.
Installment plans as well, yeah. So I am going to contact the club and try and get a cheaper alternative. But I think this is one of the many examples, and we were talking about it in the Fulhamish group chat the other day. I think the big concern is how much a new season ticket is, which is absolutely just nuts to me. I'm looking at it now. For my current seat is £830 for an adult, which is
divided by 19.
Yeah, is a lot of money. And I was saying this the other day. I'm sure many people who are watching who go to Fulham regularly were brought to games by a family member because ultimately we were known for being a family club and the tickets were relatively cheap. Now, I'm not saying they should be the same price that they were 10 years ago because that's inflation. That's not how it works. But, it was an attractive offer. I remember going to FA Cup games and it was like kids for £1 and stuff like that. And that's what gets the younger fans into football, into Fulham. Now, and to say to, I don't know, a dad and his 10-year-old son who are in the area, Fulham are a Premier League side, they want to get into football a little bit more. We went to a few games this season, let's get a season ticket. And you're now looking at it and they're going to have, for the two, you're looking at over £1,000 minimum, and then you don't, that doesn't include obviously your travel and your food and your drink and all that sort of stuff. And that's a lot of money to pay. And it does kind of beg the question of, what's going to happen with like this next generation of fans that are going to come through? Because if you keep upping the prices, which is going to happen because people are going to pay, and if you will keep upping the prices, assuming we stay in the Premier League, at what point is it too much? Do you get the point?
What's the cap? Yeah. No, I get it. And then you can factor in the cost of living crisis. Yeah. You can factor in that's only half the games. If you want to go away from home, that's a whole added cost as well. I've been following Fulham away now since 13, 14, and the amount of money I've spent on away games has been eye-watering. However, you have your ups, you have your downs. That's part of football. You're not guaranteed to win every game. Yeah. You don't pay because you know you're going to win. You pay because you might win.
Yeah.
You go because you might get the result and have a nice laugh and have a drink or whatever. But it is tough. It's tough attracting new fans with these set of prices. It's even tougher when looking at our bus stop in Hounslow friends when they've just frozen the prices of their season tickets. They've got about it in the right way. They've got an ownership model that sort of is a lot of fans of not even Fulham, but a lot of other Premier League teams are very jealous of. And it is sort of this kind of one-upmanship you get at this sort of time of the year, not intentionally, but it goes, oh, look at this club. They're doing the right thing. And then you look at clubs maybe like us and you suddenly go, they're not doing the right thing. They're not attracting that next generation. It is a shame. It is a shame, but I'm going to be playing devil's advocate here because I just feel it's fair. I know it's not fair on a lot of fans because of the pricing and the cost of living crisis, but we have just had a new stand renovation. It's taken longer than expected because of COVID. There are additional costs to that. They have to make money. Your club, if you want your club to survive, they have to make money.
Yeah.
Then again, it's not nice to price out the fans.
Yeah.
You know what
Now,
I mean? I don't have a yeah.
Yeah, there's two sides to it because obviously you've made again. I'm going to play devil's advocate to what you've just said. Basically, obviously
Yeah.
you've mentioned that the kind of the potential reason behind it is the new stand. Brentford have built a new stadium and their season ticket prices are frozen.
Very good point. Very good point.
Do you know it is a weighing up, and I'm not sitting here. I currently pay £500. I'm not sitting here going it's a disgrace. I should be paying the same amount because I shouldn't. You guaranteed Premier League football, you will pay a little bit more, and
Yeah.
I did expect a bit of an increase, but I think just the rise is just absolutely just I don't know. In some areas, like if you're already a current season ticket holder, I can get it. Like some of it I can understand, but it's the thing that concerns me more is this new season ticket pricing because it's. I mean, I was just looking while you were speaking, Johnny Haynes. Unless you want to sit right in the corner, the cheapest season ticket for a new person is £955. And the closer to the centre you get, there's adult ones is up to 1,200-1,300 quid. That's absolutely ludicrous amounts of money, I think.
I will say this: it's been a lot of fans' minds over the last few months. Craven Cottage is one of the best stadiums in England. However, it probably has one of the worst concourses and fan engagement sort of areas in England.
I hate the Hammy End concourse. I hate the Hammy End concourse.
I just think the concourse needs a revamp. In fact, in the Johnny Haynes, I know it's a narrow stadium and it's a narrow concourse itself, but it really is troublesome trying to maneuver your way through. But look, we can't sit here forever and start nitpicking it. Let's move on to Everton. I just, what I will say is that it's very, very hard to always be happy with your club. I think football fans these days do complain a lot. There is a lot of whinging and whining, not just Fulham fan base, but a lot of fan bases do. But I think it is kind of justified in some cases. Let's just hope, as a club, we stay stable and we can start making those small steps forward into improving fan engagement, ticket prices. And I know it could take a couple years to sort of freeze the prices and bring them down a bit, but these things take time. Football is very short-termism for a lot of people, but very long-termism for the upper people because they want a long-term project. And it is difficult to get everything at once that you want at once. These things do take time. And I would just like it if everyone just sort of... I think the Fulham Supporters Trust need to definitely be stronger in their words, in their demands of the club. Otherwise, we're not going to get heard. Otherwise, the fans are not going to get heard. And that divide that goes between the fans and the club, when it was so unified last season, but if there is a start gap, that can affect performances on the pitch. And then it just makes things 10 times, 20 times worse. And if you're in a relegation battle, for example, these things are so not beneficial, Jack.
No, I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. I think more does need to be done. And obviously it might take a few years, but I just grow more and more weary about where the future is if it's gonna keep going the way that it is. But yeah, I think a good start would be actually, putting another set of stairs in the Hammy End for starters, because it is just I don't even bother going down at half time because it's just absolutely just horrendous.
You have to understand that modern day football is very different to how it was when I got into it in 2005, 6, 7. These kids for a quid things are very, very rare these days. I know it's different ownership models and stuff, and people will prefer the Al Fayed reign to the Shahid Khan reign. However, there are peaks and troughs of each ownership. And look, all you can want as a fan is your club to be in the best position possible. And earlier this season, we were talking about possible European tours. Now we're going to be mid-table Premier League. It's a start. It's a good start on the pitch of where we want to be. And hopefully next season after, we can just get together, fans and club, and all unify. But it will take time, and these things don't happen overnight. Let's move on to Goodison Park. Jack, what are you thinking about Everton away?
I am. I'm really. I'll be honest. For everything I've said about, I'm not worried of this, that, and the other, blah blah blah. I'm really struggling to see where we get a result from Saturday.
Okay.
I am really struggling. I think it's just a perfect storm, and I feel like Everton are going to win, and I'm sure we'll go into score predictions and this, that, and the other. But I'll start with my my starting lineup in terms of what I would go with. Leno obviously in goal. Tete comes back in for me instead of Cedric. Ream, and then I think Issa Diop is a better player, but I feel like it'd be very harsh to drop Tosin. I actually think Tosin had a very solid game against West Ham. Anthony Robinson was particularly poor against West Ham. Could not cross, couldn't really. But you don't really have anyone else to put there, so Anthony Robinson keeps his place for me. Paulinho in midfield. I'd actually go Sasha Lukic. Not anything against Harrison Reed. I think Harrison Reed's had a fantastic season, but things are starting to get a little bit stale, and I don't think we've seen Paulinho and Lukic together in the league. So
No,
why not give it a go? We spent a decent chunk of money on him in January. He's been at the club now for a while. Why not give him a go and see what he's like next to João Paulinho? In the 10, I think it's going to be Andreas Pereira. There have been some question marks about his actual creativity outside of set pieces, which I think is a very, very valid point to make. The only other person who could potentially come in is Kearney, but I think Kearney's fantastic in the role he is. He comes off the bench and he just offers creativity off the bench, and I think that's the role he's best suited to. Obviously, then Willian, obviously Vinicius up top, and then the other position, because I want to say Bobby Reid, but again, I've not been particularly impressed with Bobby Reid over the last few weeks. And again, maybe it's time to freshen up and you bring Solomon in, or even potentially give Harry Wilson a start and see what Harry Wilson can do. I think now's a good time to make a couple of changes and just see how it goes.
Yeah, the experiments may begin. This is a game that means far more to Everton than it does to Fulham. Again, like last week against West Ham. I'm not going to sit here on Saturday evening and be like, I can't believe we lost that game by whatever scoreline it is, because at the end of the day, they are fighting for something. We're not. We're basically playing for pride and maybe trying to finish in the top half. But I would like to see Tom Kearney start in the 10. I don't think he will. But if he did, I'd be delighted. I think Pereira has a bit more of a point to prove. He had a bad game against West Ham. I'd love for him to come back and put a good performance in against Everton. I would start. Okay, let me start from there. Leno, Tete, Tosin, Ream, Robinson. This whole thing, Ream at left back. Yeah, I get it because Robinson's had a bad couple of games, but he's irreplaceable in terms of the raw pace and the threat that he brings going forward. Robinson, Paulinho. I like the idea of Lukic. I'm going to just go with Harrison Reed because I wouldn't like to drop a player after he scored an own goal. Do you know what I mean? I think that's a bit of a confidence denter. I think Pereira will play in the 10, but if Kearney plays, I'm jumping up for joy. Willian on the right, Solomon on the left, and up front, Bobby D over Reed. I just want a little bit more of this. If we play Vinicius, it feels like that focal point is going to be quite obvious, and therefore what he offers compared to Mitrovic, we're going to see a lot of what we saw last week. Solomon can at least take on a man, slide balls into Bobby D over Reed. There's no lumping balls into the box unless we've got a corner or something like that. And I just think it will bring a different dynamic, albeit it didn't really work at Brighton, but just change it up. Just make it a little bit more fresh and a little bit more exciting. And I think that's what I'd go with.
I think my thing with Vinicius, and I feel like Vinicius has become a little bit of a scapegoat.
Yeah, he has.
People try to compare him to Alexander Mitrovic. And despite them being the same kind of build, I feel like they're quite different footballers. Mitrovic, obviously, he's got a big aerial presence and has fantastic hold-up play. I think Vinicius' strength is probably his hold-up play. Obviously, he's not as good as Mitrovic at doing it. But you look at what he's offered, and the assist to Solomon for Brighton, he started the move at Bournemouth, played a really nice ball through to Pereira last week. So I'd quite like to just see us, actually get the ball and give it to feet and just see what he can do. Because I feel like if we just keep on putting balls into the box, especially against a Sean Dyche's Everton, it's just their bread and butter. You're not going to score. So I'd just quite like to see us, just try and keep it on the floor, play it to feet, and just see what happens.
In terms of Everton, they were second best against Manchester United. The draw to Spurs was quite remarkable how Spurs didn't go on to win it or hold on to what they had, given they had a man advantage for, 15, 20, 25 minutes. But I was very impressed with Everton's performance. And I don't think they are going forward an absolute threat. If they don't start the likes of Mopé, they're basically starting, Gray. They don't have Calvert-Lewin. They've got Iwobi,
Ellis Sims.
Onana. Ellis Sims could start. You're right, yeah. But in terms of that goal-scoring striker, they're missing it through Calvert-Lewin, and Mopé's not very fancied by Sean Dyche. In terms of the defence, they're solid. Coleman, Keane, or Tarkowski, and then who's the other? Was it Godfrey?
Godfrey, yeah.
Godfrey. And then left back, they play Godfrey at left back. I think.
Yeah, they've also got what's his name? Mikalenko.
And then Onana, Gay, Decore still suspended. They've still got the likes of Davis. I think Everton are going to give it a really good go, and I think it's going to be an intimidating atmosphere for us. The last time we went to Goodison Park, we won, but there was no fans. The last time we went with fans, we lost 3-0. Sessegnon hit the bar. They missed a penalty through a play. Who's not even playing anymore. And it was a long time ago. What are your score prediction for Saturday?
I don't want to be negative. I really don't. But I'm gonna say Everton are gonna win narrowly. Unfortunately,
yeah.
I'm gonna go 1-0. Dwight McNeil. We'll go with that.
Dwight McNeil, yeah, very good player. I'd like us to score a goal. I think it might be 1-1. I think we might take a lead and they might equalise, and they'll basically batter us for the whole second half with long balls and threatening looking passages of play. But I think we'll hold out, let them pretty make a really good save, tip it onto the bar or something. You could just see it happening. Yeah. And I think we'll draw 1-1.
On a different note, I was saying, I think I was saying this the other day. The only thing I really want now from this season, I'd love Mitrovic to score when he comes back.
Yeah,
that's all. That's all I really want, because he's not scored. I'm pretty sure he's not scored since Leicester, which was New Year's Day.
Wow. Yeah.
And if he comes back in the last 3 and doesn't score, then that's half a season, and he's very much a confidence player. And I feel like the reaction of the fans and how much everyone would get behind him if he scored, I think would do so much for his confidence. So I just love to see him score a goal, basically.
Yeah, honestly, it would be such a relief for him, especially, the narrative, you've still got to go to Manchester United on the final day. We're going to be playing Southampton away, who are going to be fighting for their lives. We've got a Palace game, who I reckon would be safe by then. By the way, that Palace second half performance against Leeds was one of my favourite performances I've seen all season from any team in any division. Absolutely stunning.
Unbelievable.
Roy Hodgson, Elise Eze, I was wetting myself with joy. It was unbelievable, not quite. That was right.
Any man that can get Jordan Ayew to score a Premier League brace deserves a statue.
Brilliant from Roy. Absolutely brilliant. I think that's that for today. I think we've gone quite long because there's quite a lot to talk about, and also there needs to be a sense of, well, I don't know. There's been a lot of negativity on Twitter with a lot of things. Every single incident, VAR, refereeing, it's getting crucified by Fulham fans, and it's all a little bit boring.
Yeah,
it is.
I think you hit the nail. The Man United situation was annoying, and even when I think about it now, I get annoyed. But if we're going to sit here and look at every single decision, we're going to be here until 2033. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just, when does it end?
There's no point putting in so much energy into like these sort of situations and you just can't control them. What I've come to realize is that football is incredibly, you're not going to get the justice that you want from football.
No.
Long term, you just won't. And
there's peaks and troughs. You've got to enjoy the peaks.
We've had such a good season. I've loved it. And the last 5 weeks have just been a little bit flat. and it's changed the whole mindset of the fan base. It's fine. We're doing well. This time
we're all right.
last year, we were like on the brink of promotion, but we were still worried about the centre back situation and blah blah blah. We've said it enough.
We lost to on the 10th. It was a year ago today. We lost 3-1 at home to Coventry. So make of that what you will.
Make of that what you will. That was a disappointing afternoon. But even by that stage, I was like, look, it's fine. It's all fine. Like I used to be a very emotional person over football, and now I don't feel that. Like, I still love the game, absolutely, but I just try to have other things in my life that I can sort of distract myself from football, because otherwise you just drive yourself insane, and it makes everyone around you miserable as well. It ruins every dinner time when mum's like, "Why are you not talking?" Because we've lost 2-1 to Luton or something like that. Do you know what I mean? It's just stupid.
Well, on that note,
yeah, we'll call it a day. Jack, it's been a pleasure, and I'm glad we've had this therapy session.
Yeah, it's been good. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Hopefully, the people, the listeners, or the watchers have managed to calm themselves down as well. Hopefully, collectively, we've just cut out some frustration.
And also, there's so much. Do you know what it is? The Fulham right now are probably the. Okay, be careful what you say here. There's not much interesting narrative coming out of Fulham right now. However, in every other facet of football inside of England and Europe, there's so many exciting things going on. You've got a title race that's so good in the Premier League, the relegation battle, the Championship, League One, League Two. None of it's decided. You've got the playoffs, the Champions League, Europa League, Conference League. It's all really exciting, and yet we just support a club that right now just don't have anything going for them right now.
So which I quite enjoy. It's quite relaxing.
It's fine. It's fine.
My feet are up. I'm thinking about Preston, who are outside the playoffs on goal difference. So it's just so silly.
I'm thinking about it. Can Luton sneak into second place ahead of Sheffield United before the end of the season?
Look. My mind's on the Vanarama playoffs.
Can Hartlepool stay in League Two? You just never know. Honestly, look, I love football. And honestly, it's the best thing in life. But when it's not going your way, you've just got to look for other things to enjoy in life. Otherwise you'll just drive yourself insane. Jack Charlie, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. And yeah, fingers crossed. The next time I come on here, it will be a much more joyous occasion.
Could you imagine if we were to go to Goodison and win like 3 or 4-0?
Then it's just fine.
That's fine. It wouldn't surprise me either, because it'd just be like, oh, okay, we do have a performance in us. But anyway, everyone, let's enjoy your weekend. Are you heading up to Goodison on Saturday?
I'm not, unfortunately. I thought I was going to be working with Maidenhead, but that's been called off. So instead, I'm off to Slough Town versus Farnborough.
The big one for Farnborough, that is.
The National League South playoff push. I wish I was at Goodison, but unfortunately, I just couldn't get up there.
Yeah, we're going to be heading up there on Saturday, me and my brother. It could be worse. You could support Scunthorpe United, who have just got a double relegation from League Two into the National League North.
Yeah.
You could be Wigan Athletic. You could be Blackpool. They're like, we're in a very fortunate position. Yeah. But you can disagree. That's fine. We'll see you later, guys. Thanks very much for watching. And come on, Fulham.